What's going on, Falcon fans? This is your boy Ricondo. Come back at you with another live stream video. So today, guys, we're gonna actually get into with my thoughts on what we're gonna be looking for in the last preseason game. I will be there, so hopefully I get to see some of you guys there if you come to the game or not. So look out for that. But we'll get into that, and then we'll just talk about, like I said, some of the guys we're looking for, some of the things that this game means for some teams, and other teams. Of course, all teams does it a little bit different when they come into the last preseason game, since because we went from 4 to 3, so it's gonna be different for a lot of the NFL teams this week. So, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit that like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. And then please share my video out throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here and talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said today, the first thing I want to talk about is just who's going to play, right? That's probably the first thing we probably need to think about. Who's actually going to be in the game today? What's up, Bubba Gump? Like, who's going to play, right? Arthur Smith joked about the such thing a rehearsal game, but it's a lot of teams take this third preseason game as their dress rehearsal, right? They kind of game plan a little bit for the team they're playing, and then they kind of play their starters, guys, who they know is going to be on the team like that first half. Well, usually that's how it goes. I know some teams, I think the Dallas Cowboys thinking about doing it. Tom Brady's actually going to play in this third preseason game. Matt Ryan, actually for the Indianapolis Colts, playing their third preseason game. So a lot of teams going to actually go out and actually put some of their guys out there this last preseason game to kind of get them ready because the season actually start 2 weeks. So unlike when we had the four preseason games, right? That last four preseason game, nobody played because we had a game that next week. Since we don't have that fourth preseason game, we play this game, then it's a week between um, getting ready for the games, and then the next week could be the game week, right? So it's a little different, but it's going to be interesting to see how the Falcons decide to actually do this. Some guys I'm probably thinking about that's probably not going to be in this year. I mean this week. Somebody like what's going on, Eric A. So somebody like I don't think Grady Jarrett's probably going to play, right? He didn't play last game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he don't go again. Kyle Pitts played one series. Of course, he had the big catch. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't go. We know we won't see Drake London. We was told that Drake London wasn't going to actually probably be in the preseason again. Hopefully, he's healthy. We haven't seen it. Of course, he didn't show up in practice yesterday. Hopefully, he gets some work in. Hopefully, he's be ready to go 100% week one. Drake London. So the first thing I'm thinking about when the game start, who's actually going to be in and out, right? Because that's going to determine how this game is going to go. It's still a preseason game, but if they taking it as a dress rehearsal, um, then we can actually get an idea how these guys going to look, right? And who's going to be in and out. Another thing that we got to think about, and which really what made this whole offseason so exciting, is the last position battles that's left out there, and then who's actually going to be on the 53-man roster, right? Because because when you think about it, some of these guys they still don't know who the 53. We like in some positions we can't even. You can go out and do your roster projections all you want, but at the same times it's gonna be a guess because the position battle's been good all off seasons. It's been real competitive. They haven't showed their hand on who they like or who they don't like. Right? They've been putting guys in. Some running with the ones, some running with with the twos. So that's one of the things that we definitely going to look at. And then so Dre say, I don't think none of the starters are playing. It's going to be evaluation, and I agree. They might not play, right? Because he played his pretty much he played his team both preseason games, so they got a lot of look. Especially if you look at the starters, especially in this last game, I think they played like 30 some snaps. So you're right. You could be 100% right. They might not play their um their starters at all. And if that's the deal, that's okay, right? But some guys, which I think that might have to play. So, like I said, some position battles. One in particular is that center position battle, right? Drew Dahlman and Matt Hennessy. We still don't know who's the starting center. I think last game Drew Dahlman got the start at center, so like he's up, but they've been switching those guys in and out. If you look at the depth chart that they just put out at the center position, they still had them like there. They didn't have either one of those guys that's on top of the depth chart. So that center position is still up for grabs. In their mind, they probably already know, but we still don't know as fans. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually started at center this last preseason game. And if they don't play none of their starters, they could give you a hint, right? So they decide not to bring none of their starters out, none of the other starting offensive linemen, because I think all those other positions on offensive line have been solidified. Jake, Christian Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry, and Elijah Wilkinson. I think those guys already been solidified. They've been starting the whole off season when training camp started, except for like 2 days when Jalen Mayfield got in there. Then ever since then, those been the guys. That center position been going in and out. So if they do sit their starters, whoever's starting in that preseason game, that's probably the backup, right? Another position that we definitely need to look at, and that's that running back position. This position is very excited me because I think from a running back standpoint, I don't know how you guys think about this. From a running back standpoint, every running back has played well this off season. Um, we haven't seen Cordell Patterson, but I think we all know that he's already a lot to make the team. He haven't really touched the ball at all in preseason, so Cordell Patterson definitely is going to make the roster. I think it's safe to say that Tyler Algier is going to make the roster as well. Um, he got a lot of touches last preseason game in the Jets game, but the other guys that's Damian Williams, like I said, a veteran they brought in. That doesn't mean anything, right? Because they brought in a guy like Auden Tate, and he got released just a couple of days ago. So it don't mean that if they sign you, you're going to stick. But I think Damian Williams, every time he touched the ball, has actually been pretty good as well. So that running back position is really interesting because at the end of the day, it's not if they can play, if they can't play, right? It's about how many they can keep at that position. So it's a numbers game, right? When you're trying to build out a roster, you can't put all your guys in and put all your guys in and at the same position, right? Especially if you got duplication at position. Like when you look at a guy like Quadri Allison, Tyler Algier, both of them big backs, both of them bruisers, right? We don't know. Damian Williams is a little different. He's a little mixed. Um, I think Avery Williams kind of helping himself out because he can do multiple things. We know this regime, this coaching staff, like players that can do multiple things, right? Because that helps them with their first of all with their game day when they bring up the 48 on game day, then it help build a roster up because now if you got a guy can be on special teams, can return punts, can can actually play running back, and then this week they just put him back at cornerback as also. So just think about all those things. So right, Bubba Gump. Avery Williams does have that special teams value. That's what I mean. So that's the big thing about the running back position. And I like Quadri Allison. I like Caleb Huntley. Like I said, I like Damon Williams. I like Tyler Algier. Um, and then if you're gonna keep your fullback Keith Smith as well, that's six backs, right? That's just too many. So somebody is going to be on the outside looking in. And what's going on, James? Somebody's going to be on the outside looking in, but who is it going to be, right? That's the question. Which one of those running backs is going to be on the outside looking in? this preseason game could very well determine that, right? If these guys go out and show out, Quadri Allison keep running the ball hard like he been doing all off season. It's gonna be hard. His running back coach gonna be fight for him, right? I don't know how much he played on special teams. Probably need to look at that this week and see how many of these guys play on special teams. And because just to Bubba Gump, what he was just saying about Avery Williams, special team is how guys really, if they're not starting and they're not second string, that's how they make the team, special teams, right? So we got to look at that. So that running back position is definitely going to be the game on Saturday is at 3 p.m. So at Mercedes Benz. So it's at 3. So it's an afternoon game. So um, try to work around that. Whatever you're doing on tomorrow with your schedule, try to make that kickoff. Another position is that wide receiver position, right? So I think we have about 4 receivers that definitely probably we can say they probably gonna make the squad, and that's Drake London, Brian Edwards, Alumde Zaccheaus, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw Cardell Hodge in there because he's been running with the ones for pretty much the whole pre off season. So I'm gonna throw Cardell Hodge in there. However, um, Cardell Hodge it's been a journeyman as well. His whole career, he has a lot of special team value as well. So we just have to see about Cardell Hodge. But the guys I'm definitely looking for is Jared Barnhart, who's been playing great, great this whole offseason. Right. And he's been showing it in the preseason games too. So that's gonna be interesting. I mean, talking about a guy and everybody know his story, right? He was the one of the best lacrosse players in college football last year. He won the so-called Heisman for the lacrosse. Then he went to Division 2 and won national championship as a quarterback, right? So his athleticism, what he's been showing um, in practice and on the field, Jerry Barnhart might be that guy, right? Yeah, I see Bubba Gump got. So your guys is London, Edwards, OZ, Hodge. See, that's what I'm like. I'm glad you brought that up, Bubba Gump, because you're talking about Cardell Patterson being that wide receiver slash running back, and that's interesting because we just talked about a running back position, right? And all those guys that we like at running back, like a Quadri Allison, right? Like a Avery Williams. So if they only keep 5 receivers, they could actually move Cardell Patterson because we know he was drafted as a receiver, right? So he could be that, to your point, a hybrid running back slash receiver. That way they can only keep the 5 receivers. They don't have to go with 6. Last year they kept 6 receivers, but if they want to utilize Cardell Patterson as that, the army Swiss knife that he is, he can play running back, he can play receiver. Because what you want to do with Cardell Patterson, just get the ball in his hand, right? So that's a good point you just made about actually Cardell Patterson being that fifth guy, being that other receiver that they could utilize, and so he could dual hat as a receiver and a running back, which which is good for roster building. And then we got, see, I agree, Darby, right? So this is one of my things about teams and regimes and coaching, and when they draft a guy, right? They don't want to give up on their draftee because when you think about, especially the general manager, right? They get graded on their draft class and things like that. So they drafted Frank Darby last year, right? And he didn't get a lot of play time, for us being a receiver last year, but he played in pretty much every game last year on special teams. So Frank Darby does has value on this team, right? So I agree with you about Darby. that's why when you're looking at the receiver position, that's what I'm saying. Jared Barnhart or Frank Darby. I don't want to leave out Demir Bird either because I think Demir Bird has actually been playing pretty good. He's a different type of receiver as well, because he's able to run the ball. He's able. I mean, he's fast. I mean, he's really fast. I mean, he's like 4.2, 4.3 speed, and that's a little different dynamic that we need in the receiver room. I know we got Alumde. Alumde's he's a burner as well, but that's why it's real difficult when you're looking at the receiver position. So that's the big thing I'm thinking about. Um, but we can't deny what we seen with our own eyes. Barnhart, in my opinion, deserve be on this 53-man roster the way he's been playing. Um, like I said, if Arthur Smith true to what he's been saying about competition, it don't matter where you came from, all that stuff. Hey, Bernhardt deserved to be on this team. What they call his nickname Bernie. He deserved to be on this team, right? Um, Darby, like I said, Darby has value. I mean, he's one of the best um runners on the kickoff team to go down. He's always the first guy down there making tackles on kickoff. I mean, that's value, right? We always talk about offense, defense, but special teams on kickoff returns, you got to have that value. So I believe it's going to be a toss up between Darby and a guy like Bernie. So because of special teams, right? And they could end up keeping six. They keep six, then we good because both of those guys can make the roster. But like I said, it's somebody, one of these guys that I think been playing well this offseason from the running back position and the receiver position is not gonna make this team because of the numbers and how they're gonna have to, you know, divide it up. Now I heard one of the reporters asked Arthur Smith, I guess last year they went 25 offense, 25 defense, then they went to three special teamers. So if you want to go back and look at the roster and kind of figure that out, if how they're gonna do that, 25 offense, 25 defense, three special teamers. Um, they could do it that way, but we just have to see. Um, but in my opinion, those two positions, the running back and the wide receiver position, is going to be real tough. Um, real tough. We got the offer has been looking good as well on defense side of the ball. Yes. So that was my next position that I was going to get to, the D back position. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised if D offer actually be the starting nickel going into week one because I don't think Isaiah Oliver is 100% ready yet. And that's the only reason why. Isaiah Oliver played great last year for us, but I don't think he's 100% ready yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if D Alford actually actually beat nickel in, against the Saints. So don't be. I already think that he's made the team. He's been around the ball during practice. He made outstanding plays in the preseason. He would have to really play really bad um, tomorrow for him not to make the team. So I think D. Alford has solidified his spot on the 53-man roster. The question is going to be about Mike Ford and Tease Tabor, right? So those two guys and how many DBs are the Atlanta Falcons going to end up keeping, right? So that's going to be a big question. How many you say you're still upset by Jordan Davis? I know. So when we look at our defensive line, right? And I think at this point, the defensive line might be the um the weakest, actually the weakest position for this team right now in this defensive line because we had so many injuries. Um, I mean, we was going to pin on a guy like Eddie Goldman who decided to retire before training camp started. Um, Vincent Taylor went down. And really only guy, and if you want to consider him a veteran, is Anthony Rush, but yeah, he's really not a veteran either. So, I mean, this is a guy that we brought in the middle of the season last year, and he's going to be our starting defensive tackle. So, if I feel the same sentiment about Jordan Davis, right? Uh, and I think everybody's when we was going looking at the draft, and we thought that the Falcons was going defense, defense, defense with that number 8th overall pick. I thought it was going pass rusher. And one of my mocks, I did mock Jordan Davis as well because I just thought that that was a big need for us. I mean, the Falcons gave up 2,200 rushing yards last year, um, so defense and my defensive line is still um, might be the weakest position. We just need to see how these guys hold up. But the one thing interesting about this regime with Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, even though after this preseason game they're gonna set the 53-man roster, believe those guys not safe because they will make movement on that roster. I mean, just go look what they did last year. I mean, just look what they did today. Actually, I mean, they released Rick Leonard, offensive lineman, and brought back um, Tucker Fisk. Right? They brought him back for the last preseason game. It's fluid. When they say it's fluid, they really really mean it's fluid. They really like go back and forth and and churn this roster over and over again. So those guys that's on the back end of the roster that do get selected, to be on the 53-man roster, they better just know that if they find somebody else that can come in to help this team, they might get bumped down to the practice squad. I mean, that's just how they've been doing this roster since last year. Especially with the cap situation we had and things like that. They're gonna have the best players on this team. So you got to look at it like that. He said, I don't know if Griffin people are not the Falcon fans. Oh, what is? Yeah, good point. Good point. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean Drake London, man. I think Drake London's gonna be a star, man. I really believe that Drake London is gonna be um, a star in this league. I think what's really interesting about Drake London, we don't know how fast he is, right? Because he didn't get to run the 40, but I mean the one play he had in the preseason, um, 24 yards. It looked like when he caught that ball, he cut it upfield, man. I think he's gonna do be just fine. I think what underestimated about Drake London is he played basketball as well. And if you go look at the guys that played basketball, because they already have that, you know, the athleticism to move with the ball and stuff like that, I think he's going to be able to utilize that. I think he's going to be able to utilize that getting off the line, creating separations against defensive backs and things like that. So I believe that Drake London is going to be real, real good for us. I seen another dog thing here. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. So to draft these guys, right? And I love both of these guys, but to draft these guys, you also saying that you hope the Falcons suck this year because these guys gonna go up in the top 10 easily. So for the Falcons, if you want the Falcons to draft either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, basically say you want the Falcons to have a bad season. And I'm not ready to go there yet. I really want to see the Falcons actually, see what they can do this year, right? See if they can be competitive again. The schedule is a whole lot tougher than it was last year, but I think this is a better team. And if the Falcons can be competitive, hey, we never know because if you're looking at NFC is not that dominant. Um, all the talent is in the AFC, so the Falcons could definitely get one of those play wild card spots, right? When you get in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. So I like the idea of getting a guy like Jalen Carter. I think he's going to be a great pro. Will Anderson as well. But I'm not going to talk about that until we get eliminated or something like that this season, and see where we line up in the draft conversation. So I do not want to talk about Jalen Carlin with Anderson right now because basically we're saying that our guys gonna suck. So yeah, because right, Bubblegum, you basically saying you hope we get the top 5 pick because those guys going. Wallace, you saying as long as London has, I think man, his speed is great. Trust me, we're going to see that. His ability to go up and get the ball. Um, just go look back at that one play when he broke like 5 tackles. I mean, he looked like a man among boys. Just that one play, man, and I mean, a guy that played only 8 games and got Offensive Player of the Year in in the Pac-12. That just tells you he has the talent. One thing about him, which is awesome, he know how to play inside and outside. So just imagine being able to mix match him and Kyle Pitts inside and outside, because those guys are gonna have to decide, who they're gonna put on Kyle Pitts. You're gonna put your best corner on him, and then you're gonna put somebody else on Drake London, right? I mean, to me, the weapons we have on offense, when you just think about offense, is it's 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 underrated a little bit. You think about it. I mean, a guy like Cordell Patterson, um, Avery Williams. I think they can utilize Avery Williams coming out of the backfield. Um, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, the mobility of our quarterback, Marcus Mariota. Um, don't forget about that. The way they're going to utilize Marcus Mariota, let's just cross our fingers, hope he stay healthy this year. But that element of him being able to run the ball, and then all our weapons that we have, it's going to be exciting. Trust me, it's going to be exciting. And then, like I said, those 2 weapons. And if you go, we don't forget about Brian Edwards as well. Most of Brian Edwards catches was for explosive plays. Most of his catches that he had when he was with the Raiders was for explosive plays. So he's a big play receiver as well. So let's look at that. Let's see here. Tyler Algier. I don't know if he's going to come out as our feature right away. Like I said, um, you know how Archie Smith is about rookies. He don't want to hype him up too much because and I get it. He want to make sure because you ain't did nothing yet, right? Yeah, you a high draft pick or you did this that, but if you ain't did it in the pros, it don't mean anything. So that's why he try to keep down the hype for these guys. I mean, he did the Kyle Pitts last year, but at some point he just got he had just the knowledge that Kyle Pitts is what everybody thought he was, right? So you say you don't think we're gonna see. No, not running the ball. I don't either. I don't think we'll see him run the ball, but I can see him utilizing the passing game, and that's what I mean. Like I said, I think that for certain teams, because if you wanna mix it up, and the imagination of Arthur Smith, a guy like Avery Williams, a guy like Felipe Franks. Think about a guy like Felipe Franks as well, because a guy like Felipe Franks, um, being able to use him in that Taysom Hill role where he's athletic, big. If he could, we have really haven't seen him catch the ball, and I think he had like 1 catch in the preseason so far. So we seem to catch a lot of balls in the practices, but we got to see him actually be able to. He can do that in the games, but being able to use Felipe Franks and those kind of packages, and that's what I mean. Like they can have a package for Avery Williams, they can have a package for somebody like Felipe Franks, where it's unscouted for teams, and they got to be prepared for that, right? You just if you don't even use it, you just show that formation with those guys in the backfield. Now there's just something else for the defense have to scout for and have on their mind. So that's why um like I said, I like our weapons because I agree. I don't think Avery Williams going to run the ball a lot, but he's with the ball in his hand in space, he can be dynamic. Damon Williams, um, I don't think he's going to be. I think I think if anybody be the number one back, it's gonna be Cordell Patterson, right? Um, I think he would probably be come out, try it out. One thing about Cordell Patterson though, they can use in so many different ways. So even if Cordell Patterson is in the game, they can have another back in the game as well. Um, I don't know if you guys saw that formation that they used against the Jet, the little pistol formation, and they had two backs right beside the quarterback, and then they had a back in the back. Um, that's old school, man. But when you do that, you have the defense thinking, right? And then you emotion a guy, and it's all about misdirection, make the defense think, right? And kind of confuse them. That one play in particular where Fersker was wide open down the field because the splits they had, it was so close. They had the receiver right here, the tight end right here, and the receiver went inside and the tight end went on the wheel route on the outside. It confused the DBs, right? That's why first was so open, right? And then at the same time, they had the running back, and there was Avery Williams come out of the backfield in that same direction. So they had to make a decision who to go. Do they take the back? Do they take the inside receiver going in? And then they forgot about the tight end coming up on the wheel. That's what happened on that play. But that's the kind of formations that, and what I'm talking about when I think about the talent we have on offense. Um, Dion Jones. Right. So when I want to get in and talk about that, the another position we want to see um tomorrow is that linebacker position, right? We didn't see a whole lot of Troy Anderson this preseason. We saw him in one game. He played okay. I thought he played like a rookie, right? Kind of when you're a linebacker, you got to be able to read or act and go make the play. Like I said, seemed like he was still thinking too much, a little bit too much. You can't do that when you're playing linebacker. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to go ahead and go to the play. But talking about Dion Jones, um, he's going to make the roster. I don't think that's going to be a question. Definitely, he's going to make the roster. But I want to see Dion Jones see if he's able to actually move back up that depth chart. I think right now, the starter is going to be Rashawn Evans and Michael Walker. I don't think those neither one of those guys did anything not to have that spot. Um, but I think Dion Jones is right there. He's creeping up. Um, Dion Jones is probably one of the fastest linebackers in the league, and we could actually see Dean Pease use different packages as well, right? On third down, you can see Dion Jones come in on passing downs because that's what he's probably um, could be utilized the best, right? Because his the way he can cover in space. I mean, don't forget that Dion Jones has what about five pick six in his career. So um, he's a talent. I still think he's a talent. Um, I mean, we cannot forget and overlook the fact that Dion Jones, first of all, he played out of his position. He had never played Will before, right? He had never played that position. He always played the Mike. He always was um, that Mike linebacker in the middle, and then you put him in space, and he had some mishaps last year. I agree, but it's also the same time he was learning um, a new position. He was learning a new position, and sometimes it takes a year to get it. And no excuses because he played. He was a little injured as well. So um, I think they're just how it is. We have Wallace here. You say you think? Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Dion's going to back up Michael Walker. Um, like I said, with the linebackers we got, because I think we're good. I think we got enough good linebackers to hold up at that position. But they could have different packages, right? You keep them fresh because, in my opinion, it won't be a drop off if you take Michael Walker off. He got to get a break because he been out there, and you bring Dion Jones in, right? It won't be a drop off at that position, so you can keep your guys fresh. Same thing, when you bring it in D linemen, right? We're going to be able to keep these guys fresh, keep them fresh. You can bring them in our linebackers, our front seven, keep them fresh because the big thing what we want to see this year is our pass rush. We want to see the pass rush. That's the next thing I want to talk about. This preseason game, I want to see. a guy like Okendeji, if he plays, right, because we still don't know if the starter's going to play, but a guy like Okendeji, he did. I think he played well. If you go back and look at the game against the Jets, he was all over the field. He really played well. That was a bull job call that they called on him, roughing the passer, because that he. I mean, he didn't try to go to the guy's leg. He got clipped, and then he still tried to make the play. So, um, but Okendeji, you want to see what um Ebiketie, see what he's going to be able to do. I think Ebiketie played very well in that Detroit Lions game. Kind of, kind of didn't see him a whole lot in the Jets game, making the plays to get to the quarterback. But that's one of the things I want to see for as the line outside linebackers. I want to see that pass rush, right? It's no secret. Everybody talks about it. 18 sacks last year. Um, I think we got a nice group of outside linebackers. That whole outside linebacker room been revamped. Besides from Okendeji, right? We got new guys everywhere. So um, hopefully these guys can get to the pass rusher, man. They're gonna need help from that D line. That's the biggest thing. That D line is, like I said, in my opinion, is probably the weakest position. For us, that D line. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's why he moved. That's why he was moved. Um, Dean P's like a little bit bigger linebacker playing that Mike. Even though Rashard Evans is really not that much bigger than Dion Jones, but I think his ability to play the Mike is a little bit better in this scheme than it is in a Dan Quinn scheme for Dion Jones. Yes, and he's going to play weak side. I agree with that. Which and really, I think is good for Dion Jones because his speed working in space as that weak side linebacker is good for him. We don't forget that Dion Jones did have the second most sacks on the team last year. So, so, so that's and he was a linebacker. So, um, they did use him in blitz packages and stuff like that. So, like I said, you can use Dion Jones. Just start thinking about how we can utilize our all our players on this team to actually make plays, right? Like that pass rush, that pressure, because one thing about um making sacks, right? It's not just about those outside linebackers. And one good thing about the way Dean P's been doing all preseason, he been sending blitzes from everywhere. Been sending from the safety position, from the cornerback position, from the linebacker position. Um, Dean P's plan is to create pressure this year. We already see that, and this team is fast. It's we got a lot of speed on, especially that linebacker position. Some speed at that linebacker position. So um, we're going to send guys out from our slot corner. D Alford, that was a good blitz he had the other night. Um, just kind of ran through it too fast, break down, make the play. He was there. He should have had that sack on the quarterback. But like I said, he kind of out of control, trying to make a play. Got to keep the outside contained. That's what you got to do. A lot of times last year, if we think about it, that's a lot of times with some of our guys, we had the quarterback, but we didn't keep outside containment, and those guys got out the backside. So that's one of the things for me. What I want to see, like I said, this preseason. It's not a regular game, but um, some of these guys that's on the fringe, especially if our starters, get in and play. I want to see some of that pass rush going into the Saints game. Another thing I want to see is one thing that we haven't talked about. You know that was I think a lot of us thought that was going to be a big major concern. Going into this off season was the offensive line, but I think the offensive line been playing pretty good this off season. I mean, I think they've been holding up well in pass protection, right? They've been opening up holes for our running game. That's what we've seen, right? So the offensive line play, want to see them continue to actually to be able to play and stay in good strides. I want to be able to see who's going to start at center, right? It's going to be Drew Dalman. I think Drew Dalman played well last week against the Jets. Um, Max Hennessy's been playing decent, but that pocket has been good for our quarterbacks, for both of them, Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ritter. That's what we've seen. That pocket's been good, and just these guys' athletic ability alone is going to help with that. But I can honestly say one of the things that I've been impressed with is our offensive line. And I think we all thought that that was going to be one of our weak spots, because we was kind of concerned about that left guard position. We were concerned about that center position because last year our center and our left guard um, was labeled as one of the two worst starters in the league last year. So that's just being honest about it, right? Yeah, you're right. I don't think they're gonna play. We'll have to see. Like I said, every team does it different. We know a lot of it is a couple of teams this weekend are gonna actually do what they call the dress rehearsal and have their guys play. But I agree the way Arthur Smith played his guys throughout preseason, the two joint practices. I think they got an idea about their starters and what they need to see from those guys. So um, I think I agree. I think we won't see these guys play a whole lot, if any, right? I don't think we'll see. We didn't see Grady play last game. I don't think we're gonna see Kyle Pitts play. Um, Cordell Patterson won't play, but we'll just have to see, right? Uh, we're gonna see. I definitely think we're gonna see a whole lot of Desmond Ritter again, which it's been exciting watching him play. His progression, through the offseason. Desmond Ritter been probably one of the better rookie quarterbacks playing this preseason, if not one of the best. I know Kenny Pickett been playing pretty well as well, but um, for me, I think Desmond Ritter been playing pretty good football. All the mechanics and stuff with the offensive line, making sure he get these guys lined up, kind of make sure they get set with all the movement, especially in Arthur Smith offense. There's a lot of movement, so these quarterbacks got to make sure these guys are set before they hike the ball, because you can call it on the receiver or whoever is in motion, but really that quarterback got to make sure they get set, and that's probably why Arthur Smith was like getting into him a little bit about that. So, um, but the whole thing is that last preseason game. It's about these guys actually trying to make the team, right? And that's one of the things that I would just want to end the show off with today and talk about. We always talk about the guys that get drafted in the first, second, third rounds, right? And how much potential these guys got, right? But in reality, um, these guys on the back end of the rosters and the guys that don't even get drafted, um, can definitely make something happen for your team, right? Right now, currently in the football Hall of Fame, there are 15 undrafted guys that's in the football Hall of Fame. 15 undrafted guys. So, um, that's why these guys need to know these guys that's going out and playing this preseason game, this third preseason game. It does not matter if you was drafted or not. If you get a chance to play, um, you got a chance to be great, right? And I'm just gonna call out a couple of guys that you probably know about that was undrafted. That played a long time, or like I said, they're in the Hall of Fame. One of the guys is our own Jesse Tuggle, right? Played 14 seasons with the Falcon. He was undrafted out of Valdosta State. Um, he played 14 seasons in this league. Yep, the Hammer, right? In the Falcons Ring of Honor, Jesse Tuggle, he was undrafted out of Valdosta State. right? Played 14 seasons. A guy like Adam Vinatieri, right? Probably one of the best kickers to ever play. He was undrafted. I know he's a kicker, but still at the same time, um, that's what it's about. Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer, right? Undrafted. He was working at a grocery store. Got his chance, got his opportunity. Hey, like I said, in Hall of Fame, won the Super Bowl. So those are kind of things that we gotta think about. John Randall. I know everybody know about John Randall. Played for the Minnesota Vikings. Um, a monster coming off the edge, man. Um, like I said, undrafted guy. London Fletcher played with the Redskins for a long time. Little undersized, but one of the nastiest linebackers ever to play the game, right? And then James Harrison. We know James Harrison was a monster at Pittsburgh and played for New England as well. So those are just some guys that was undrafted. Like I said, we look at the first, second, third round guys, but some of these guys that's in the later rounds, like a Grady Jarrett who drafted in the fifth round, right? Um, Tom Brady drafted in the sixth round. So you have to be able to know if you get opportunities, especially like in these preseason games like this. Um, you got to show out, right? You got to leave your mark out there, not just for the Falcons, for every team that's watching, right? Because um, we could be deep at a spot, and they say that they're not that deep, and they might pick you up, right? So that's why these preseason games are important. A lot of people don't look at preseason, but for a lot of these guys, this is they last opportunity to show what they can do on the field, and that's why I watch these preseason games because some of these guys, I mean, like I said, I talked about it last week. We had talked about a guy like Shannon Sharp, drafted in the seventh round, who felt like he wasn't gonna make the roster until he went out and made a play on special teams. Right, that's what I'm talking about. A guy like um, Davis, right, Terrell Davis as well, went down and blowed the guy up on the kickoff, and once he did that, the coach was like, "Who is that?" Right? Didn't he know who he was? He's like, "Who is that?" And just that one play on kickoff got him on the roster. So preseason important, even though these our starters might not play. A lot of these guys that's trying to make the roster, especially this team, because all these guys been competitive the whole off season, and we can go down the roster and see he should be on the team. This guy should be on the team. This guy should be on the team. But the fact of the matter is that we know they are not going to make it because it's a numbers game. Let's see here. Wallace, he said, I agree. I think he's going to play through the third quarter. I hope Felipe Franks play throw the ball this time. He's in the dome. It wasn't raining, so I hope. I know Arthur Smith said he was trying to get him to just run. See what these guys do. His offensive line look, and running backs look in the running game. But if Felipe Franks play, well, we definitely don't want to see what we seen last week. Uh, yeah, the the the, the depth. I think this year our depth is a whole lot better than it was last year. Um, I'm kind of like if the guy goes down in certain positions, I'm like, okay, I think we're good right there, right? If our quarterback goes down, I think Desmond really need to sit. But if our quarterback goes down, I'm 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 happy with I'm okay with Desmond Ritter coming in. Um, Linebacker position, like I said, if a guy like Michael Walker go down, Dion Jones is right there. We good. Um, Cornerback, be kind of a little nervous when our cornerbacks go down, even though I like our depth at cornerback. But I hope though both of those guys stay healthy because I think with Casey Hayward and AJ Terrell, they can be one of the best um, corner tandems in the league next year. So um, they, especially with some of the receivers that we're gonna have to face in our own division, especially with a guy like that Trader Julio going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, Yep, you're right. It doesn't matter, man. I know the Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith say it's the eighth round. It don't matter. It don't matter where you come from. Don't matter if you got drafted. Like I said, Kurt Warner was working at a grocery store and he got an opportunity, right? If you get an opportunity to get on the field, just like a guy like D. Alford is doing, right? Played in the CFL last year. Every time he get on the field, he played like a dog, man. That's why he don't start getting reps with the ones because he wanted, he wanted to be that guy, right? Um, Sometimes you can seem like guys don't want to be great. It's like you say here, if you don't want to be great, why you even on the field, right? That's why a guy like Jared Barnhart, right? A guy, his dream was to see could he play football, right? He was a great lacrosse player. That's why he went to play that one season being a quarterback, and he just took a chance, right, to see could he um be a receiver, and he's been playing great, like I said. But that's why it doesn't matter. You just got to get your chance. And one thing that we can say about this coaching staff is they let everybody get a chance. It don't matter how much money you make. Yep, you're right. Every player you can draft a guy number one overall or number two overall. Ryan Leaf, right? Jamarcus Russell. Some of those guys never panned out, right? So you never know. You never know. I can't. I You can have the argument that some guys get drafted in bad situations, and they never overcome the bad situation. Like a David Carr. I think David Carr got screwed because his offensive line was so bad when he was playing with the Texans, and and by the time he got somewhere else, man, he was done. He got beat up. So we don't know how good David Carr could have been. I think a guy like Justin Fields is kind of it's it's happening to him right now because that Chicago Bears offensive line is so bad. Um, I just hope Justin Fields be able to be able to last, right? So you can have an argument that some guys um, get in bad situations and they just can't overcome those bad situations, right? Um, then they get a label on them that they can't play, but the reality was they weren't coached right, and they was in the wrong situation and things like that. And then that's what happened. So you got to look at it, all those kind of things. That that's a lot of players, right? Um, like in my opinion, like a guy like Marcus Mariota, right? Guy who won the Heisman in college, and we saw what he was able to do in college. Um, it would be smart of a coach to actually utilize some of the things he did in college that make him successful in the pros, especially in today's game, right? Because I get it. Back in the day, some of that stuff you couldn't do that you did in college that you couldn't do in the pros. But I think now a lot of that stuff is translating to the pros. So I mean, Arthur Smith, if he's smart, a guy like Marcus Mariota, go back and look at some of the things he did at Oregon. And I know he's been in the league for 7 years, but at the same time, that's when he shined the best, right? Um, y- y- I know these guys got their philosophy, their offense, and things like that. But if you're going to utilize your guys to to make to the best of their abilities, you got to be able to do that. That's why one thing we know about Cordell Patterson, he just want the ball in his hand because he's like, you put the ball in my hand, I'm gonna do something with it, right? That's all you got. Don't matter what position he play. You can call him a running back, you call him receiver, whatever you want to do. Cordell Patterson just want the ball in his hand. He's a football player, right? That's what some of these guys want. Just let me do what I do best, and we're gonna make a play. That's why Michael Vick was so special, right? That's why a guy like Lamar Jackson is special. Those guys know what to do with the ball. Maybe unconventional and things like that, but they just say, "Let me do what I do." So it's just me going to my soapbox about guys getting drafted, then don't pan out because the coaches was so stubborn about their scheme and how they want to play them and stuff like that. He's gonna make the squad. Actually, this might be the one of the bad picks for this regime, Jalen Mayfield. Um, you would think that the whole year one to year two jump would have happened, but it doesn't seem like the case for Jalen Mayfield. And maybe he should have played tackle. We don't know. He played tackle in college. They moved inside, but as of right now, Jalen Mayfield. I mean, it's not over for him yet. I mean, he's still young. He's a good run blocker. I can tell you that much. He moved guys in the run game. So he's a mauler. He still has some talent, but um, he has to clean up some of his techniques. And one of the biggest things that was hunting him last year is penalties. And I mean, in the preseason game, just those penalties was allowed, especially when it happened. Right, 4th and 1 on the goal line, we trying to make a play. Things like that. Those things are because you can have penalties in the game, but what I call the loud penalties is in those crucial situations, like it's your mental thing because you can't jump off the sides on 4th and 1 because you're trying to go for the touchdown, right? That's mental. You got to be locked into those things, and so with Jalen Mayfield, it's not all done going for him, but as of right now, um, we all know he lost his starting position. What three 3 days and three the first 3 days of practice, he had already lost his starting job. So um, that's bad when we thought it was going to be a competition between him and these other guys, but he lost his job like 3 days into practice and never got it back. Um, then, like I said, you go out and do things, and everybody's killing him because the issues he had. So you don't think switching the guard was a bad? I mean, we don't know. I mean, think about last year. He played tackle in training camp for the most part until um our guard at the time. I forgot. I can't think of the guard name that hurt his hand. Um, he played guard, so moving him over to guard right before the season start didn't help him at all. Didn't help him at all. It didn't help. It did not help him. And man, he had his first 4 games was up and down. I think he played better against Tampa Bay than he played against Philly. That first game is against Philly, man. I thought he was gonna have a nervous breakdown on the sideline, but then he came back and he played pretty good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, against Vita Vea and Dominic Sue. But I mean, up and down. He was the most penalized guard. He gave up the most sacks as a guard in the NFL last year. So all those things happened. Um, right now, we can't say it was a bad pick because you really don't know if it's a bad pick for like 3 years in. That's just being honest about a draft pick, right? Because sometimes it takes longer for guys to develop than others. That's just the fact. Um, some guys can hit the ground running right away, and sometimes it take guys a little bit longer, right? So if he don't start showing us something by next year, then we can say, yeah, it was a bad pick. Right now, I don't think it's fair to say that, but it's trending in that direction though. So let's just be honest about it. It's definitely trending in that direction, um, of being potentially being one of those picks that we look back on and say the Falcon messed up on that. And that's why when we talking about picks, right? When we talking about this roster, that's why, in my opinion, right, John Fitzpatrick, Justin Schaefer, Frank Darby, um, those guys, in my opinion, is going to make this roster because of that. And that's politics. That's more of politics, and it's going away from what they talked about when we talked about competition and the best guy was going to, make it. But in those guys' cases, they're young guys, and it's talking about development, right? So those guys ain't had a chance to develop yet. You picked them for a reason. So if you picked them, you didn't give them a chance to develop. Basically, saying you made a bad pick. And like I said, I don't think they're going to do that. That's just me. I don't think they're gonna admit that it was a bad pick, you know, right after they just drafted them. That's why I think those guys will make the team. I know they can be on the practice squad, but when you put a guy on the practice squad, they can get poached from any NFL team, right? So, um, and these guys on the back end of the roster, so it's not like you expecting them to play right away anyway. But I think those guys going to make the squad, and if they make it, that means some of the other guys on the team will not because they wasn't drafted. And like I said, because it's on the back end, I'm talking about on the back end of the roster now, not guys that we expect to contribute right away, but on the back end of the roster, a guy like Jared Barnhart, I think he can contribute right away to help this team. So he could leapfrog somebody because of that. Um, but say a guy like Kobe Gossick, right? They pick him. They pick Justin Shaffer over him. Um, I don't think we'll have an argument with that because Justin Shaffer was drafted, and like I said, it's in development. You have to develop your guys that you draft. So that's why I say that. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I, that was one they worst decision they did last year. Um, I mean, I can see why they like the Jalen Mayfield because, like I said, he's a mauler, man. He's a big, good dude, and especially in the run game. Last year, when we ran the ball to the left with him and Jake, um, man, they was averaging like I think that like a 3 game stretch last year. They averaged over 100-yard rushing, and they was running that ball to the left, right behind Jalen Mayfield and Jake Matthews. Go back and look at that. It was real good, right? And I liked the way they was doing that thing. So like I said, Jalen Mayfield, right now, the jury's still out on him. So yeah, I think they set him up for failure last year by moving him over the guard right towards the end. Yep, you're right. Yep, both of yeah, because I agree, but I don't think it was a plan to play him at all to start the season. I think they wanted Matt Gunno to actually win that left guard position. I don't know if you heard Matt Gunno could have career-ending injury. Um, I think I picked up by the Giants. I'm not mistaken, and they was reporting that he actually had another injury. So um, too bad we never got to see guy because that's another guy that the Falcons had developed for years, and Matt Gunno, and we never got to see that um, because he couldn't stay healthy. Which you start to look at a guy like Marlon Davidson, right? He could fall into that same um thing. A guy that has so much potential. We so excited to see play, but can't stay healthy, man. Marlon Davidson, we don't know how talented he could be. I mean, that's why a guy like Taquan Graham is already, in the starting lineup over him. Okay, yeah. I mean, you saw they just released Rick Leonard, so yeah, I can see that Kobe Gossett thing. Yeah, they just released Rick Leonard. And he's another guy that had a lot of penalties in that game we had last week. So, um, well, guys, that's about it. Um, like I said, guys, I try to hit you guys up from the game tomorrow. I'll be there watching to see what these guys they do. Hopefully, we get another win. I know it don't matter in preseason, but it just when the Falcons win, man, you feel good about it, preseason or not. And we got to start creating a winning culture at home too. Um, we only won 1 game in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium last year. That was against the Lions. So we got to start winning at home. We got to start having that home field advantage. Of course, us as fans got to contribute in that. A lot of times you go to the game, you see um, more freaking other fans than our fans. And we know, I know Atlanta, we got a lot of fair weather fans. If we winning, we show up, but if we losing, we fans don't care. Yeah, yeah, he had too many penalties in that game, man. Yeah. And see that's what that's what you talk about. We talk about preseason, right? It can either go either way. If you should have a good showing, right? You stay on the team. If you have a bad showing, you can be cut. You can be gone right away. That's why preseason games so important. Like a guy like I'm gonna tell you a guy that also played bad is Tyshawn James. That's why he was gone like after the first preseason game, and they brought in Johnson, right? The other guy, Keyshawn Johnson, because Tyshawn James, man, he even in practice he couldn't even catch the ball. It was just yeah, he squandered his opportunity. Like I said, you get an opportunity to come in, you got this because if you that was your life, your childhood dream, and you want to actually be in NFL. When you get your opportunity, man, you can't squander it. And Rick Leonard, guy like Tyshawn James, some of those guys, man, they just didn't give it all they got. So, oh yeah, like I said, man, we are. I agree. They set Jalen Mayfield up for that one, right? But I mean, they had opportunity to bring in a veteran um last year, and they never did. So I mean, like I said, it was just like I said, they're not perfect. We know that, right? Because sometimes like you making, I think Arthur Smith said you make an investment in a guy, you want to see if he's gonna work. And that's what they did. It- they let Mayfield go through growing pains, and you know who paid for it the most? Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan paid for it more than anybody last year, man. He got destroyed. He got hit so many times. I think he got hit 150 times last year as a quarterback. So, um, yep. So if Matt Ryan want to blame somebody, blame it on the coaching staff. They set him up with putting Jalen Mayfield at left guard. So, yep, 15 days away, man. We got to beat the Saints, man. I mean, that's the way to start off the season, playing those guys, and then putting an L on their record. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome, especially with so many people um, picking them to actually come out the NFC, right? Um, like like they forgot James Winston threw 30 interceptions in the season, and he was playing good last year. Okay, 5 games, so his forget about the 30 interceptions. Um, he's changing around because he played good in 5 games last year. So, um, man, we just got to come out, man. We can't let the Saints beat us that first game. Uh, I like their defensive squad. They got a pretty good defense squad, but we'll get into the Saints on Saints week and talk about them in a little bit more depth. But man, I can't wait until we kick it off. I can't wait to see this new look offense, and I can't wait to see the aggressiveness from Dean Pease, the way he's going to actually um, unleash that defense, man. I mean, I think Dean Pease is going to be so aggressive. It's going to be scary. So, man, Marcus Lattimore, he is so overrated. I mean, all he do is grab. He grab. That's all he do. That's all Marcus Lattimore he grab. That's why, you know, um, he get all the hype, man, because he get away with grabbing. But they supposed to have emphasis that on that this year in the secondary, guys grabbing and touching down the field for the defense. So that's gonna be good. He can't get away with stuff like that. But but see, Drake ain't small, so he ain't gonna be able to punk Drake around. You're right. It is the Aints, man. You're right. It's not. It's the Aints. You saw they was already trying to clown us. They had a little scoreboard of 28-3. Uh, like that's not getting old already. That's why they missed out on the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with that missed pass interference call. I was so happy when they didn't call that pass interference. It was definitely pass interference, but I was so happy that the ref didn't call that miss. Forget the Saints, man. Aints, whatever you want to call them. I can't stand them either, man. I'm so happy Drew Brees retired though, and Sean Payton's gone, and that's one reason why I think we're gonna beat them, man. Because people underestimate how important Sean Payton was for that team. So I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm like you guys. Can't wait to that game. But we got to do it in steps, guys. We got to get to this preseason game first, and then we got to see who's going to be on the roster, and then we got to get ready to game plan for these guys. So we gonna stay in the mindset of with the Falcons, right? Because right now they're thinking about the third preseason game. Coach staff got to figure out who's going to be on this roster. The last thing I'm gonna say about the roster before I go is that don't be surprised if the Falcons go go poach other teams after they cut guys because Terry Fontenot is real good in pro scouts. That's what he did when he was with the Aints. He was a good pro scout. So believe me when I tell you that they're looking at every other rosters and seeing where they can actually make this team better from another guy. So just be on the lookout for that. Um, like I said, that's why I say some of these guys on this roster now, they ain't gonna be safe. They might make it right away, but then they might get cut because they bringing somebody else. Dred, what you say? Man, we draw 81, man. That'll be we don't have to win another game. If we draw 81 on the Saints, the first game of the season, we don't have to win another game, right? We have bragging rights the whole rest of the season. So and then we can talk about getting Jalen Carter and and Will Anderson, right? Because we already won our Super Bowl. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah, we shut them out. That'd be great. Honestly, I don't want to shut them out. I want James Winston to throw like 3 interceptions. That'd be perfect, right? I want Dion Jones to do what he did the last time he played with the Bucks. Pick six, run it in. That'd be awesome. So, guys, that's all I got. Once again, like I said, it was great talking to y'all today. Um, we're gonna definitely see what these guys do tomorrow. Then we're gonna look forward to the cuts. We'll talk about the new roster. I mean, the final roster. What these guys gonna be able to do. I'm definitely gonna come out with my season um projections, how many wins and losses we're going to have. I was holding off for that because I wanted to see who's going to actually be on the final roster. Um, and I'm gonna try to be honest, right? I'm gonna look at each team in its totality, and I'm gonna try to be unbiased when I look at our team and see what I feel like our roster is going. Our win loss total is going to be this year. So be on the lookout for that, and hopefully, like I said, I haven't really looked at the game, so hopefully I come out and say that we're gonna actually have a winning record this year, based on our schedule. It's a pretty tough schedule looking at it, but that's based off last year's teams, right? So you can't. That's why the predictions are so tough because you're looking at how the team played last year, vice how a team is built this year, right? Like for an example, the Falcons, um, we got a pretty much a whole new roster. So if they looking at how we played last year and trying to figure out how we're gonna play this year, it can't do that. You just have to see how it lays out, right? So called experts got us going 2-15. I know when I do my win loss, it won't be that. So just be on the lookout for that. Man, you know what? You know what's so happy about Cam Jordan is the fact that he don't got Matt Ryan to say no more, right? Because we don't have somebody sitting right there waiting for Cam Jordan to make a play. So now if he gonna have to earn that sack, right? So That's my one thing that I like about the fact. And man, I hope Caleb McGarry can hold his own against Cam Jordan this year because he owned Caleb McGarry, man. So hopefully Caleb McGarry, he's in the contract season, he goes out and show his thing. So once again, guys, that's all I got. Be on the lookout for the next video. And this is your boy Ricundo coming back at you with another video. Peace.